What I see is a company that's trying to be three things at once: a bold corporate treasury, an infrastructure builder, that's Mavin, and an acquisitive moonshot investor. After BITMINE's first ever annual shareholder meeting, I move with mixed feelings, equal parts excitement and, explain that again? The meeting gave us structure, 4 growth pillars, it gave us ambition, 5% of ETH is the headline, and it gave us show-stopping moves, a $200 million Beast Industries bet. But it didn't give us the kind of crisp, operational detail many shareholders wanted. Before we get into the narrative, let's anchor a few facts so we don't argue about numbers later. Bmnr closed the previous session at $31.16 after edging up about 0.94% on news the company expanded its large-scale Ethereum accumulation program. BITMINE reported crypto plus cash plus moonshots holdings of $14.5 billion as of January 19, 2026, including 4,203,036 ETH, priced in their release at $3,211 per ETH, 193 BTC, a $22 million stake in ACO, and $979 million in cash. BITMINE's ETH equals roughly 3.48% of total ETH supply, and staked ETH totals 1,838,003, valued $5.9 billion at the same ETH price. The company says Mavin is on track to launch in early 2026 and that stockholders approved key proposals, with Proposal 2 passing at 81% yes. Those anchors will show up again, and they explain most of the market's emotional swings. What we saw at the shareholder meeting was two things simultaneously: a confident sales job and a frustrating lack of operational detail. The company neatly framed its growth story into 4 pillars, which is a smart communications move. It gives investors a checklist. But then, as the meeting went deep on each pillar, much of the content felt repetitive or vague. The same high-level goals repeated without the granular how investors crave. That's why many people left the call saying, "I liked the story, but what are the KPIs?" I'm sympathetic to both sides. I want big vision too, but I also want the spreadsheet-level bridge between "we'll get there" and "here's the first quarter cadence that proves we'll get there." That bridge was thin. BITMINE presented 4 pillars to explain growth. What we saw was a coherent strategy on paper, but when you pull on each thread, there were gaps. Mavin, Made in America Validator Network, the staking/validator platform, and the core infrastructure bet. Treasury accumulation and staking, the giant balance sheet play. Buy ETH, stake it, earn yield. Productization/BMR app, consumer and institutional product pathways to drive demand and utility. Moonshots and strategic investments, purchases like the Beast Industries stake, long-term ecosystem plays. By the way, if you are getting value from this video so far and want more like this, please like the video, it means much to us, and hit the subscribe button, and comment the word more. Just go ahead and type the word more so I know. Now that you have commented, let's continue. Each pillar makes sense as a category, but the meeting left a lot of implementation questions unanswered. How will Mavin scale commercially beyond staking BITMINE's own ETH? What are target contracts or onboarding plans for institutional staking as a service? How will the app meaningfully drive usage versus being a marketing wrapper? They teased answers but didn't give the operating blueprint. I want the company to tell us the KPIs, validator fees, expected Mavin contribution to revenue in year 1/2/3, number of institutional onboarding pilots, and so on. We didn't get that. Mavin is the most hyped asset in the presentation. What I see is a huge opportunity. Institutional staking services are a genuine TAM, total addressable market, if you can offer custody, uptime, SLAs, regulatory compliance, and reliability. The market loves the idea of staking as a service. But here's the rub. During the meeting, I didn't get a clear storyboard of how BITMINE plans to sell Mavin services beyond staking its own ETH. Tom Lee talked about optimizing staking yield, more on that in a moment, and about alpha strategies being executed by third parties, Mosaics and advisor Tom DeMar, but investors wanted to hear about commercial pilots or signed MOUs with institutions who would outsource validators to Mavin. That wasn't spelled out. So MVP. Huge. Execution proof. Minimal. If Mavin is to be the AWS of staking, the company needs to show customer pipeline and commercialization milestones. Now the part that makes my spreadsheet heart beat, the staking economics. What I observe is that staking converts a volatile asset into a predictable income stream, and BITMINE is explicit they plan to stake most of their ETH. Here's the rough math the company walked us through. The CISA/CESR benchmark, a daily composite of mean annualized staking yield, stands around 2.8%. BITMINE says it will aim to beat that via optimization strategies. With their current ETH holdings and ETH at roughly $3,000, BITMINE's staking yield today equates to roughly $400 to $430 million per year, depending on how much they stake versus keep liquid. If BITMINE hits 5% of circulating ETH, their target they've talked about achieving in 2026, that staking yield could beat $540, $580m/year at $3,000 ETH. If ETH reached $12,000, Tom Lee's long-term target, staking yield could become $2 to $2.2 billion per year. Those are headline numbers and they change with ETH price and staking rate, but they show the structural upside of a Treasury plus staking model. Those yields are not pocket money. They become operating income that can fund dividends, more token purchases, or moonshot acquisitions. That's why the market pays attention even when the share structure question is open. An interesting nugget from the meeting. BITMINE claims it has used alpha strategies, executed via mosaics and guided by Tom DeMar, to save about $400 million on purchases over the last 3 months. That's a big claim. In plain language, they say their trading/capital deployment execution has been materially cheaper than naive market buys. If those savings are repeatable and scaled, they're real accretive gains for shareholders. But like a lot of claims without real audit-level disclosure, the company needs to keep documenting the trade-by-trade outperformance in a verifiable way. That's part of the "show me the receipts" problem investors had at the meeting. The 5% target, ambition, timeline, and decentralization concerns. BITMINE's public target, owning 5% of circulating ETH, is the headline that drove the early run-up. What I observed in the meeting is they still hold to a roughly 5% anchor but have been careful about saying more than 5% could be bad for decentralization. Tom Lee walked back earlier comments about a 10% target and emphasized the company wants to avoid concentration that could damage Ethereum's decentralized character. That's sensible. Owning too much ETH would be counterproductive and could reduce network trust, and that would hurt BITMINE's balance sheet too. So they appear to want a large but bounded stake. My read is roughly 5 to 7% could be the band they'd accept. Financial math note: if BITMINE wants to hit 5 to 7% and ETH price rises, the dollar amount needed rises too. The user's earlier math suggested hundreds of millions of shares might need to be issued at current market prices if the company funded purchases primarily via equity, which is why the 50 billion authorized share vote and the mechanics of future issuance matters so much to investors. The meeting didn't fully justify why they asked for 50 billion instead of a more modest authorization. That hole remains. Note this as well. Daniel 7 verses 25 to 27 tells us, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven, shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him." Want more information about the books of prophecy? Please check the description section. That's the end for now. If you have watched until the end, drop a comment like this: "I stayed until the end." Just comment that I stayed until the end. When I see this comment, I will give you a heart. 3 more favors I request from you. First, like this video, subscribe, and then turn on the notifications bell. If you do this, you greatly encourage us to continue bringing to you more insightful videos. Do not miss out on our future videos. All I am asking is your subscription. Thank you for joining me today. Your support means so much to us. Do not hesitate to share this video to help someone who may benefit. I recommend that you watch the next video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts about today's video. Wish you God's love.